Hello and welcome to our April customer webinar, Kimble Proposal Management, hosted by Kimble Applications. My name is Jeff Popel, VP of Customer Success at Kimble, and I'll be your host today. Presenting today's webinar with me is Kimble Pre-Sales Consultant, Roger Blanchard. Today's webinar is the latest in our ongoing series that addresses how services-based businesses can scale through the key concepts of visibility, empowerment, and discipline. Previous webinars in the series have included managing financial adjustments, maximizing your Kimble invoicing procedures, and Kimble Intelligent Insights. Today, we are pleased to demonstrate Kimble best practice for managing proposals. First, I'll outline the agenda for today. I'm going to walk you through Kimble's flexible product model and how that supports your organization's proposal modeling. Essentially, I'll be discussing how you can use templates to make your salesperson's interactions with proposal modeling more intuitive. Then Roger will use what's been set up in the system to walk us through the type of actions your salesperson will take during the sales process, including selecting the appropriate team for a project, forecasting usage using generic resources, forecasting potential expenses, assigning a bid team, and inputting risks that might compromise the project. I'm displaying the Kimble subway or tube map, and I've put special emphasis on the portion of the end-to-end process we'll be discussing today, using a proposal to forecast potential revenue and cost, as well as usage needs. A proposal captures the services you are proposing to the prospective customer, including cost, revenue, and timescale projections. Kimble Proposal Management gives you the flexibility to shape your proposal as you gather more information through the sales cycle. Roger is going to perform the role of salesperson, taking a templated proposal you see here and adding detailed information to it that he's gleaned from speaking to the prospect. The aim is to empower your salespeople or bid team to update the proposal as it matures. Doing so will give you greater sales pipeline detail and visibility. All the detail captured in the screenshot you can see, the generic assignments, the risk cost calculation, the optional elements that can be added with a simple click, that needn't be entered each time you create a new proposal. Kimble allows you to default this type of information onto the proposal at the time of creation. To make that possible, you need to build up your typical offerings using templates. Your salesperson makes a single decision when they set up a proposal. They select the appropriate proposition. The proposition defines a template for the proposal. Within it, the product group templates the structure of elements onto the engagement, and the product itself templates the behavior of each individual element. The goal is to allow your salespeople to select a consistent set of propositions from which to structure and shape a new proposal. The earlier your salesperson begins to create their proposal and the easier they find the process, the more accurate your sales pipeline will become. First, let's look at a proposition. A proposition can relate to one or more product groups, and a product group templates the structure of elements onto an engagement. Again, the proposition is all your salesperson needs to select when they are setting up a new proposal. The product groups that will have been configured for this proposition and the products configured within those product groups will create the default structure for the proposal. Note the setting against the proposition that determines whether a proposal will default to use the high-level forecast or to use a detailed forecast at element level. Moving on to the product group. A product group holds one or more products via the product group product entity. and the product defines the behavior of the element. By clicking the new product group product, you can add a product to a product group. In doing so, you can define whether it will be a default product or not. What does that mean? A product that is set to is default will create an element for that product onto the proposal. A product that is not set to is default will appear as an optional on the proposal. These can be seen as the grey boxes with the plus signs on the right-hand side. This is used for elements that are not always required, but are used often enough to warrant them being templated. A product is the commercial model behind the element. On the product, it is possible to define activity assignment, milestone, and task templates. Your salesperson will have the ability to adjust these as the actual deal takes shape. Note on the screenshot that I've highlighted two fields, alternatives group and extension product, on which I've chosen team profiles. Adding an activity assignment template to a product will set up an assignment when the element is created. As you can see here, I've added two assignment templates, one for a business analyst set to start 17 days after the start date and to be assigned at 90%. The other for a project manager to start 8 days after the start date and be assigned at 60%. Those generic resource assignments carry over to the element, allowing the salesperson to refine them when they learn more detail from the prospect. You can do likewise with milestones. In this case, I've set up two revenue milestone templates, and rather than setting specific values for them, I've indicated that each will be worth 50% of the total revenue. I've also set the first milestone to be the start date using a 0 offset, and the second for 40 days after the start date. These milestones can be changed by the salesperson as the deal develops, but it gives them a definite starting point. Let's say that a sales conversation reveals that the default commercial model needs to be changed. You want to make that easy for your salesperson to switch to the appropriate alternative. You can use alternative groups to assign the products that will appear as other options that can be selected instead. Let's look at one final templating option before we hand over to Roger for the demo. As you saw in an earlier screenshot, I previously set up generic assignments for this element, one project manager, one business analyst. That may be the typical small team configuration for this type of project. But that team might need to change in a predictable way. For instance, if it's determined this needs to be an on-site project. Rather than having my salesperson make those changes by hand, I can ensure that teams of various sizes and structures are available to him to template on. To do that, I've used an extension product. This product is a container that holds other products together. In this case, it's holding a set of child products that define activity assignments for my various team profiles. Everything I've set up to this point has been done to ensure a streamlined process for my salesperson. But that's enough of the slides. Now I'm going to hand over to Roger, who will show us what the salesperson does as his deal starts to take shape. Over to you, Roger.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you to everyone for joining us today on this webinar. I've already made some critical decisions based on my first interaction with the customer. I was able to set up the proposal based on the first impression I got from the customer, which was that this was going to be a fixed price project. And I selected that from the proposition template that Jeff previously mentioned. Based on the proposition that I selected, it automatically populated an engagement in an element for me. If I ever need to change this element, I still have the capability to do so. So if our client decides to change their mind, maybe move to a time and materials project instead, I can quickly come in and be able to change this element to the related products that we have with it. I actually just got off an incredible call with the prospect where I got a lot more detail about what's going on. Now I need to be able to capture this detail in Kimble Proposal Management. On the proposal, I can travel to our actions, events, and docs, where I was actually able to track some of the things I needed to start doing to move this proposal forward. Based on what I have here, I can see that I moved the stage to 50% based on that recent call we had. And based on the discussion I actually had with our resourcing manager about this project, I was able to realize that we need to actually utilize our on-site project team, and it's going to take them no less than 45 days. I've also discussed with our resourcing manager that we have a potential risk on this project. It seems that in the upcoming month for June, we're not going to have any project manager that's available for this project. So we need to raise this as a risk in case we're not able to find someone to fulfill the role for our proposal. Going back to our proposal, I've been tracking our projected revenue and cost through Kimble's high-level forecast. But after our recent call with the client, I'm not ready to start tracking this at a more detailed level on our element here for our fixed price project. So what I can see now is if I go to our element, I can open up and configure our element to see what we'll actually be delivering in terms of our proposal. And after our discussion with our resource manager, we know that we now need to utilize our on-site team. So utilizing one of those product extensions that Jeff mentioned earlier, I can quickly reach out and update the roles and assignments on my project from the two that we have templated as our business analyst and project manager to using 3 new resources that are assigned to the Kimble on-site team. As you can see, our assignments have now been updated, and we now have one for project manager, business analyst, and technical consultant. Based on our discussion with the client as well, we now got the feeling that typical projects for them are also on the same rate for us, which are typically around $100,000. So all I need to do is add in our revenue for this proposal, and I can start to try and track what our target margins are going to be for this proposal. Typically, for our business, we try to aim to get 40% of a target revenue. So if I input my target margin of 40%, I can see that I have an expected usage of 41 days. But based on the discussion I have with the resourcing manager, I know that this is going to take at least 45 days. So I know that that's not going to be enough, that margin's a little too high for me. I need to be more realistic. So if I try and drop down our margins to say 37%, it'll update, letting me know that I'm still a little short on my expected usage. However, with Kimble, we have a few different ways we can forecast. It doesn't always need to be in terms of the target margin. If I want to go do my expected usage, I can now enter in that I know that I'm going to need 45 days of work for this project, and it will then update my margin, showing me what I can then, or what my margins will be based on my 45 days of usage. I also have the ability to get into even more granular level of detail. If I click on my usage item, I can also update my specific resource assignments that are coming up for this project. So for our project manager, let's say we know that we need at least 20 days from him. I can add in my 20 days of utilization for my project manager, and it will now be updated. So now that we forecast our resource assignments for the proposal, let's get into actually forecasting some of our expenses as well. So jumping over to our expenses, I can now add in any expenses that I am foreseeing coming into a possibility for this project. So by opening up, I know for a fact that we'll have to be doing some travel for this project. I know that we'll need to be getting some plane tickets. So now I can associate an expected forecasted cost for our airfare. So we'll say we have around $500 worth of flights, and there's going to be three flights for this project. I can now see it's going to forecast a cost and a revenue. But based on discussions with the client, they're only willing to cover 80% of the cost of the flights. So I can adjust what we're actually going to be gaining back in terms of rebillable revenue. So I can change this to $1,200. So now we're actually going to be keeping track of that data accurately to be able to forecast our cost for this proposal. We also always deliver a gift at the project initiation to our clients. And since a gift is going to be non-rebillable, I'm going to then take away the revenue once again. So we'll say we're going to have a $300 gift for our client, and that will actually not be gaining any revenue back from it. So now that I've forecasted all of our costs in terms of expenses and assignments for this, I can now save this, save what we've changed here on our element to see how that will be forecast. I'm now ready to turn my forecasting over from my high-level ideas into a detailed forecast that has now been generated at our element level. But one important thing to note is that both the high-level forecast and our detailed forecast exist at the same time. It is just a choice of which one we are actually using to be able to use it in terms of our real forecast at the current moment. So now I'm going to change over from our high-level forecast that we have been previously using to now our detailed element level forecast. So with one click, it's letting me know that I'm at the point of no return if I choose to switch over to the detailed level forecast. I will no longer be able to go back to my high level forecast. I will now be utilizing it only at the detailed level. Now the current values are going to reflect the element level forecast cost for both our services contract revenue, expenses contract revenue, and as well as our services contract revenue and our expense contract revenue. If I also look down below, I can see that we have a child product involved in this element as well for risk cost. In order to close out this deal, I know I'm going to actually need some help from a pre-sales resource and someone or a member of our bid team. In order to do that, all I need to go down to is our bid team proposal, the bid team portion of our proposal. We're going to now assign a resource to help me work with the client to close out this deal. I know for my company, Claire Smith is usually the resource that I utilize. So I can now search for Claire within the system. And then pull back that Claire is available for me. I can then assign her to the pre-sales role and her current the location she'll be working in. And then I can get to the point where I can actually assign or schedule when I'll need her help. So for Claire, I know I'm going to need her from May 2nd for 4 days until May 5th. And what's going to happen is based on my usage behavior that I've selected, it's going to then let me know what my utilization will be. So saving Claire onto this assignment, she'll now be aware that she's going to have to help me out on this pre-sales opportunity and help me close out the deal before moving forward. One important thing to note out too here is even though we're assigning Claire to this project, you're not going to see a change in the cost of this delivery engagement. The reason for that being is even though Claire is helping us and we're going to track that as part of our total cost of sale, it will not be part of the forecasted cost for this project. Also, after our discussion with the client, we realized that they actually need another package from us that we sell on the side, which is our reports package. So going back to the idea that Jeff mentioned previously about having planned alternatives, this is one of those where we can say, okay, this is a commonly sold service with our fixed price project, and all I need to do is click the plus button, and it's now going to generate this product onto our proposal. What you also may notice is based on when this product is now created, is that you'll see a new element that's going to have only forecasted revenue. Forecasted revenue with no cost. And we can see how that will be reflected up on our top level here, showing us our overall project, cost, and margins. So you can see that our margins have now increased. So the last task I had to be able to do today in terms of our proposal was to add a risk for our project manager not being available in the month of June. So once again, all from the same proposal, I'm going to take one click and go ahead and add a risk onto this proposal. So what Kimble will be doing here is associating a risk cost contingency with this project. So based on the severity that will be selected, I will then know how much cost contingency will have to be impacted. So based on the high level that we'll have here, based on our medium impact and high probability, it's going to let me know that my risk severity is high, which is then going to correlate to a 10% risk contingency cost on our proposal. So then I can track this risk, save this risk against our project, against our proposal, I should say. And when I go back to our overall proposal screen, we'll now be able to see that there is a risk cost contingency added onto the project, onto the proposal. So as I scroll down, we can now see our child product is now actually tracking a $6,600 cost contingency, which is equal to 10% of the cost for our proposal. Once again, we can see our margins are affected, giving everyone an accurate idea of what the effect on this deal could be if this risk remains open. I hope I've shown that there's a lot more proposals in advancing this stage. Empowering your salespeople to use the proposal management as a tool is something that they will constantly use to record risks and manage generic assignments. This will also give you more thorough forecasts and detail moving forward in the sales process. The more your salespeople feel empowered to work in the Kimble application, the better idea you will get from the Kimble application of where your sales pipeline is. With that, I will hand back over to Jeff.
Thank you, Roger. We have a few minutes left now to answer your questions. So Roger, first question we've got coming through here. Can reports be set to filter out high-level forecasts?
Yeah, great question. So yes, you can take reports and do filter out the projections from proposals that are using a high-level forecast. In this way, you can allow your salespeople to use high-level forecasting for deals that are still at the low end of the possible spectrum. This will help keep your reports that show you your sales pipeline is focused on more mature deals and is switched over to using a detailed forecast.
Okay, thanks. Another question just coming through. Can I also use an extension product to provide different milestone structures in the same way you did with team structures?
Yep, yeah, you can. You can use it for the task templates as well. An extension product acts as a container for child products. And those child products don't have to be limited to an activity assignment template. For example, we chose to limit them to just for our team configurations, but realistically we can give them the same for milestone configurations or then a combination of both on the same ones.
Okay, thanks, Roger. I think that's all we've got on the question board for the time being. So with that, thanks, Roger, for taking us through the sales process and for showing us how powerful Kimble proposal management can be. Thank you also to our audience for joining us today. If you'd like to see which topics we'll be presenting in the coming months or shared recording with your colleagues, your Kimble administrator can look this up on the Kimble support portal to find recordings and registration links. The next webinar in our best practice series is Turn and Face the Scope Change, which is all about managing change requests in Kimble. The webinar will be held on Tuesday, May the 30th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time or 4 p.m. UK time. Registration details are available on the Kimble knowledge base or drop a note to webinars@kimbleops.com. Many thanks for attending. Bye-bye.